ready? We're going to go ahead and get started at 7 o'clock, so we like to start on time so we can end on time. I wanted to start out this time with a spiritual thought. And it's from L. Tom Perry, and it's just an audio, so there's no video that goes with it. And it's just about 1.5 minutes long. But I wanted to play that for you. So.
We live in the most exciting and challenging period in human history. As technology sweeps through every facet of our lives, changes are occurring so rapidly that it can be difficult for us to keep our lives in balance. To maintain some semblance of stability in our lives, it is essential that we plan for our future. I believe it is time, and perhaps with some urgency, to review the counsel we have received in dealing with our personal and family preparedness. We want to be found with oil in our lamps, sufficient to endure the end. President Spencer W. Kimball admonished us, in reviewing the Lord's counsel to us on the importance of preparedness, I'm impressed with the plainness of the message. The Savior made it clear that we cannot place sufficient oil in our preparedness lamps by simply avoiding evil. We must also be anxiously engaged in a positive program of preparation. Then he said, the Lord will not translate one's good hopes and desires and intentions into works. Each of us must do that for himself. On a daily basis, we witness widely fluctuating inflation, wars, interpersonal conflicts, national disasters, variances in weather conditions, innumerable forces of immorality, crime, and violence.
I just wanted to share that with you. I think it's really important that we all have a program of preparedness and that we're working on it continually. We've been counseled to store things that we use and things that we will use or can use. I was looking at a website that they had I believe it was in Texas, they had a tornado go through, and then afterwards they talked about how their food storage, even though it wasn't just food, the things that they had stored had prepared them for this tornado, and how they were able to, they had flashlights, they had, it seemed like it was gas they needed for some heat or light, and I thought, that's really neat. And I almost shared that with you, but I just loved L. Tom Perry's talk about preparedness and how important it is to us. Tonight we're going to talk about communication and how we can be prepared. We have Brother Rollins, who is going to talk with us a little bit about what we can do. Jackie Cook, who is, she is the Franklin County Emergency Preparedness person. And she is also lives in our neighborhood, so she has a vested interest in all of this and helping us to be prepared in our community. And so we'll go ahead and turn the time over to you to get started. Does that work?
That's
okay.
Right. Thank you.
All right, yes.
Okay. I'm Jackie Cook, and I work for Franklin County Emergency Management, and I've been with them for about 5 years. Before that, I worked for Richland School District, doing various things, bookkeeping, etc. And then I worked for Columbia Basin College for about 10 years. When I worked at Columbia Basin College, that's really what got me started with the preparedness, as far as from the standpoint of the information and the presentation and what you do. As far as the food and that kind of thing, I've had an interest in that for years. With the emergency preparedness, some of the information I'm going to give you today, I'm going to kind of basically go over some of our hazards. It's pretty amazing. I just got through with an exercise with Department of Energy at the Federal Building, and we also have one with Columbia Basin, not Columbia Basin College, but with Energy Northwest. We just finished with that one on Monday, so I've been running and gunning a little bit. But it's pretty amazing when you go through and when you think about the different types of hazards that we have in our area. Earthquakes, a lot of people don't know that we have live faults that run through our area, which, that's one of our top hazards that we have in our area. along, of course, with our winter weather, which we all know about that, and the wind, which we all know about that. But anyway, when it comes to going through and preparing for that kind of thing, our organization takes and tries to work with people as far as going through and doing preparedness, doing a lot of exercises and things so that we can go through and we can, it's more like an elastic response. We go through and we will respond without thinking long and hard, trying to figure out what we're going to do. And granted, you can't do that for every situation, but it is something that we take and that we try to do in our area. As far as staffing in our office, there's 4 of us, so we're not a real big office. Benton County Emergency Management currently has 4 as well. I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk a little bit as far as about FEMA. As we all know, we've been told to prepare for 3 days, and they're finding that that is not nearly sufficient enough. Right now, they have moved into a 2-week preparation as far as telling people, the general public, to take and be prepared for 2 weeks. But I guarantee you, in 2 weeks, FEMA's not going to come running. They can't take care of everybody, and that's one of the reasons why it's so important to go through and to meet like this and get ready and prepare for your families, for your neighbors, and your friends, because nobody else is going to do it for you. You ultimately are going to be responsible for yourself. So I think it's great that you guys are here taking and trying to do some of that.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Thought I'd turned it on.
Anyway, Hurricane Katrina was a prime example as far as FEMA taking and going in, and what was so lacking in the preparation and the expectations of the people that the government's going to take care of us. They're not. And, it's really sad because years ago, people used to take care of their neighbors and their families and those around them. And the mentality of so many people today is, well, number one, it'll never happen to me. Somebody else is going to take care of me. And like I said, that is not going to be the case. According to a recent statewide survey, there were 1 in 4 families that are convinced, or that are not convinced, that it is necessary to prepare for an emergency. And when you think about that, 1 in 4 with the population, and my guess is this is what they got in their survey. My guess is it's probably higher than that. And out of those that were surveyed, there were 40% of them that they were unsure of even how to go about doing what they needed to do. So as far as the different kinds of disasters, you all know that there's fires, and we've had a lot of them around here lately in our state. And not only us, but California and the other things we all know. Good old Hawaii's having a good time right now too. We have floods, we have power outages, we have landslides, which of course everybody knows, the one up in Yakima. It is still moving approximately between 1 and 2 feet a week. So they don't know how long it will creep. They call it the sloth. So, we just don't know. So they're still doing some monitoring things, but they expect it to happen, but nobody knows when. It could be tomorrow, it could be 10 years from now. They just don't know. As far as technological hazards, we all know that if there were an EMP blast across the United States, that it would wipe out a lot of our electronics. And when you think about what runs on electricity, it's pretty daunting. People's wells, how we get our water, our sewer system. You look at the vehicles that won't work, all of the food, that truckers bring across state lines or across the United States that are not going to be available, gas pumps, banks. So it's really
medications.
Yes, medications. So it's really important when you go through and you think about in your preparation, going through and having some of those things on hand, like extra medication, because it's not going to be something that's going to be easily attainable. Technologically wise, I know there's a lot of people that were a little stressed over North Korea and some of the things that they were doing. And I'm really interested to see where things are going to go from there because of the threat of a nuclear disaster. And I know that right now that is one of the top concerns at the federal level is an EMP blast. And looking at our electric grid, it is very vulnerable. So things like that we.
What does EMP mean?
Oh, it's an electronic magnetic pulse. And so essentially what it does is it fries the electronics. And they talked about if there were 3 perfectly placed, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and one in the mid part of the United States, it would knock out most of our electrical grid and fry a lot of the electrical components. So, you look at in the hospitals, things like, all of the medical equipment, things that people are hooked up to that wouldn't be working. So, I don't know how much or how many of you have taken and have looked into the ferret cages, but that's one of the things that you really should consider taking and using as part of your emergency preparedness.
So, and the presentation on EMP pulse was also recorded and is on the website. So,
No, it was one that they did earlier.
it was one we did, I don't know, a few months ago.
But it's on the website, so we'll probably do it again. We just haven't made it that far.
This year was one of the fires that they had a few years back in Benton City. That of course it was pretty devastating. This year, this is just from our area. This is West Richland in 1996. This was some of the flooding that went on in our area. Franklin County, of course, as we all know, has a history of landslides. And I know over in Franklin County, there have been some of the roads that were taken out down along the river, some of the slides and things that have gone on. So, as you can see from the pictures, there are a few of them there. We all know about our wind, and so these are some of the photos of Richland, Connell, and the Kennewick areas where they took and they went through and they had wind damage.
Is that somebody's lawn pulled up?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was a couple years ago.
I'm sure it wasn't that structure.
The tree fell over and all the roots pulled that whole lawn up. I remember that.
Yeah.
Wow. Because the roads were surfaced.
Well, even the wind we had here just recently, I was gone and I came home and my fence is 4-foot crossbar, it has rose bush on. It had been lifted up and twisted, blocking my other gate. I mean, it had about 8 nails sticking up, so it had to really be a pretty big wind to.
Several years back, we had the big heavy-duty gas grills on our back porch. It blew them totally off. And our porch is up about 3 feet. It destroyed both the gas grills. Nothing, there's not much to it sacred to the wind around here. So,
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. This here are some of the snow and ice storms. And of course, we had a great one, and I'm going to show you a few more pictures because this year we had a presidential emergency declaration taken and signed during the winter of 2016-2017. And this was some of the damage due to melt and rain drainage damage in Benton and Franklin County. And the damages exceeded over $2 million in road and canal damage. This here is some more, from what we had. Here's some more.
That was out by Didier's farm, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
He wasn't too happy about that.
No, we had FEMA in our office for about 3 or 4 months going through and doing damage assessment. And the thing is, they come in and they look and they decide what they think fits the bill as far as damage or not damage. And it didn't cover near some of the damage that was taken and done. There was an irrigation canal. I don't know if I have that in this presentation or not. But one of the canals, it took and they had some concrete down that canal, and it just obliterated it. And I forget how much that damage ended up costing the company to go through and to get fixed.
Yeah.
As we all know, we have a nuclear power plant. And as we all know, this is one of our technological, radiological things that we have in our area that we have to take and that we have to watch out for. Is there anybody here who works out for Energy Northwest or has worked for Energy Northwest? It's pretty amazing when you go out there and see what they do to try to prepare to make sure that we're as safe as possible out there. I've had family that has worked out there and that is currently working out there. Like I said, I was just out there for one of the exercises that we had. I do the public information officer stuff. And it is amazing to go through and to listen to them as they work together with different scenarios, listening to the technical information that they have and how they go about trying to explain it and how they would explain it to the public as far as going through and trying to give them as much peace of mind as possible. But I myself, living here, I can't say that I'm real panicked about CGS taking and being out there. They really work hard at going through and making sure that we as a community are as safe as they possibly can. And grant, like I said, you can't prepare for every single incident, but they really work hard at going through and at doing their best to try to make sure that we're kept safe here in our area. This here is what we consider the emergency preparedness zone. And this here is the Benton County side, and this here is the Franklin County side. We have pre-scripted messages so that if there is an alert, site area alert, or general emergency, we go through and we tell people in these areas what it is that they need to do. Whether it be to just monitor and prepare, keep your eyes and ears open, listen, figure out what's going on. Whether it be to go through into shelter in place, whether it be to evacuate. So we have, as far as the communications where we are, they went through and they added, and I can't remember the number of sirens, but just not too long ago added a number of sirens. As you can see, they're all along the river here. They're over here in different areas. They want to make sure that anybody within this 10-mile, what we call emergency preparedness zone, can hear those sirens. FEMA comes out and they actually, those sirens are tested. And they go out and they actually make sure that the decibels are correct. And not only do they have to make sure that humans can hear this as much as possible, but also they look at the environment. They look at, when we're testing these, they look at, okay, when are the eagles nesting? Because they don't want to mess with our environment. I mean, as much as possible, they try to take all that stuff into consideration that I never even thought about. But anyway, so these sirens here, when we take and when we go off, as far as our communication goes, these sirens will sound for 3 minutes if we need people to take action. After they sound for 3 minutes, we go through and we send off what's an audible message so that people are told what it is that they need to do, so they need to be listening to that. We clear people off the river. We go through and we send them to the boat launches. If necessary, we go through and if we feel that there is any possibility of contamination or even, like they may have had a radioactive release and it may be on site. Well, we're there to protect our public. So we go through and we tell the people with those messages to go ahead and go to either Columbia Basin College, which is an emergency worker assistance center, or to Southridge High School, which is also for Benton County, is their emergency worker assistance center. At these places, we set up where if somebody, then we have the equipment to go through and there's monitoring done to take, if there is any radioactive contamination, it would detect it, and we would go through and we would decontaminate right there on site. If for some reason, which is not super likely, that we could not decontaminate somebody, we would go through, if there was a medical reason, we would send them to the hospital and they have procedures in place to go through and to do decontamination as well. So this is another way, as far as communicating with people, what's going on and how to go about protecting our public. Not only do we have the sirens, we also have what's called an EAS, which is an emergency alert system. And I'm sure you guys have all heard that wonderful sound on the TV and the radio going, wah, wah, wah. Okay,
Yeah.
guess what? I'm one of those people that goes in and tests that. We actually test it silently once a week. Then we go through, and once a month, there is a live test done. And I don't know if it's once or twice a year, because they were talking about changing it. It was twice a year, and I don't know if it's going to go back to once a year. These sirens, we actually do a live test over the river to make sure that that also is working the way that it should. We do that ourselves, and FEMA does their own thing. So there's a lot of testing that goes on just to make sure that things are working properly. We also have what's called Code Red. Have any of you guys heard of Code Red? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was a
Yeah.
new product.
Yeah, Code Red is electronic telephone notifications, or electronic telephonic notification system. And what it is a program that you can go through and you can sign up for off of your mobile phone. And what they can do is they can notify you either by cell, by text, by email, or by landline, or all of those. And I'm going to go ahead right now. That'd be great. We work with the schools. In fact, as far as Benton County, they don't have any schools that are in the emergency preparedness zone. They're all outside of the area. However, we do have these 3 schools in Pasco that we take and that we work with. Not only do we work with these 3 schools, but we work with Bay City, and we also work with Connell and Mesa. There's other schools that we work with as far as that goes too, so that they know what they need to do. When we're talking about communications and preparing things like that, we actually have, and I don't know how many, I honestly cannot remember how many units we have out, like example with Public Works. They're on ambulances, they're on fire trucks, they're on school buses, where they have equipment whereby they can go in and they can actually test for radiation. There's actually, we have the, what they call the DRDs, and I wish I had allowed to bring them tonight. But anyway, there are these little things you go through, they're a tube, they're about this long, and you go through and you can hold them up the light and make sure that they're set. If they're not set, we have it's a type of gun thing that you go through and it resets it to 0. But what happens is the firefighters will wear these on their clothing, or whoever's going into an area that might possibly have radioactive material. They will wear these and it will start to record that. And they have to record that information every 30 minutes. And if they start to get a dose at a certain point, they turn back. We don't leave them out there. They have to come back. We also have other things that they wear. They're called OSLs. They almost look like a Fitbit watch or something like that. They go through, we have, the Department of Health can go through and can read those. And for an official reading, they're actually sent in someplace to go through. We also have what we call leadlums. There's 26 ones and there's 11 12s. We're moving from the 11 12s to the 11 26s. And they do beta and gamma radiation and alpha. And depending on the probe or whatever, you can actually go through and depending on which way you have the probe, tells you what type of radioactive material that you have. With the new ones, it's really awesome. We have some of the volunteers that volunteer for Franklin County Emergency Management, as well as Benton County also has volunteers. And we'll go through and we train our volunteers on that so that they know how to read those. Some of them have retired from Hanford and want to take part, and so they'll come in and they'll go through these trainings to make sure that they're prepared if they have to go out. We also have what we call just-in-time books that we go through as far as communication with these people that give them step-by-step instructions. Literally, I mean, they are as clear as day as far as with what you need to do if you decide that you want to go out and you want to help monitor or do whatever. At a certain point, number one, we can't force anybody. And this is totally voluntary. when we go through and when we get to a certain point where if radiation would be so high, we would go through and anybody, if we had to do a life safety thing, if there was somebody in there that we needed to get out, it would be strictly voluntary if somebody wanted to go in there if the radioactive level was so high, because they have to understand what would happen or what the consequences could be if they decide that they want to do that. As far as this code red, it is awesome. If you decide that you want to sign up, on the back, it shows Benton County Emergency Management's number, and I don't know if our email's on the back of there or not. And it also shows Franklin Counties. If you live,
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you're set up for Amber Alert, does that include this?
no, Amber Alerts are a totally different thing. They deal more with like child abductions and things
Right.
like this. This works like an Amber Alert.
Okay.
Except for
the
it's
same
like-
idea.
If there's an emergency and you call 911, it's kind of the opposite, where if there's an emergency, they call you, or they text you, or they email you, however. Email I wouldn't get simply because I don't always have time to check my email. So I want either a text or I want a phone call to take it to come to me, and so that's the way I'm signed up. Anyway, if you live in Benton County, you need to sign up under Benton County Emergency Management. If you live in Franklin County, you need to sign up underneath Franklin County Emergency Management. They do not spam your information, period, cut and dry. When you go in and you sign up, it will go through and it will tell you, you can opt out for third party as far as any of your information going out. They do, they'll test immediately if you do a phone call or a text, they'll go through and they'll test that. So, but you need to make sure there's two things. If you go through and you sign up for this, number one, if you change your phone number, they don't know you changed your phone number. So you need to make sure that you notify them or notify us so that your phone number can be changed. Number two, if you change your provider. So if you go like from Sprint to AT&T or from AT&T to T-Mobile or whatever, you have to notify them because the cell companies do not always work or play together well in the sand, let's put it that way. And I know from experience because we like I said, we test our system regularly, and I had gone through and moved from Sprint to T-Mobile. And for 2 weeks I didn't get the message, and I'm like, what is going on? It's like, this is like something's not right because everybody else is getting them but me. So I went in and I called Code Red and I said, what's the deal? I've been signed up for however long, and all of a sudden I'm not getting these. And so they started looking through and started asking me questions. Had I changed my phone number? No. Had I changed providers? Yes. And so, needless to say, it didn't work. So those are two instances where you want to go in to keep the communication working the way that it should. You want to go in and you want to make sure that you make those changes. Don't let it go. It is an awesome system. It truly is. All right, moving on. All right, this here, does anybody know what this is?
Yeah.
This was at the Purex plant. This was the tunnel collapse that ended up happening. And of course, the probable cause, I think, was due to the snow melt and rain situation that ended up damaging road. I was actually, when this ended up happening, I ended up out at the federal building for the Department of Energy to do the PIO stuff for Franklin County. And it was quite an experience going through and being there. I was there until, 9:30 at night or something like that. But listening to the technical stuff, listening to, they were trying to find out what was in those cars, and monitoring to see if there had been any release of any kind. It was really fascinating. As it was, there was no release. And the ironic thing of it is I ran into a gentleman later on who had worked out there. He was retired, and he was telling me that when all of this had happened, they had called him to find out some of the stuff that he knew was down here. And that's one of the things with turnover, you don't always know. That information is not always passed down, but is so important. So they've gone through and they've done further, what's the word I want to use? They've gone through and they've checked some of that, and they've gone through and they've sealed things better so that this is not so likely to occur again. There's a lot of railroad cars that were so contaminated that they had gone through and they literally had pulled them into these tunnels years ago and just covered them because of the contamination. There was no way they could get the cars clean or the other things that they took, and they ended up burying in these. And as we all know, it definitely is interesting as far as going through and anytime that you have this kind of situation, to see how they go through and how they mediate it.
Can I give people background on that building too? Can we back up one?
Sure.
The Purex building was a process used to purify the plutonium, and that dark groove down here on the bottom side was where the rail cars came in to the plant. They went through the left-hand side of the plant, and they discharged their nuclear material from out of the reactors along the river, and then they processed them in there. And like she said, when they got radioactively contaminated, they pushed them down that tunnel to the south, and we saw what happened, and they filled it up with a packing foam. Perhaps you've ordered something really expensive online, and it's compact in a really compressed hard foam. That's what they filled the tunnel back up with to help contain the contamination, and then filled in that hole and get it all done.
Yeah, when they were taking, I don't know how much you know about, but when they were getting ready to go through and to do this, they weren't sure how unstable with the road around it as far as any of the vibration or anything, if it would cause any more collapsing when they were going through and they were trying to do this. So there was a lot of technical forethought that took and that went into going through and to making sure that these tunnels were taken and closed, as well as they didn't want to have the dirt going through and flying up in the air and it was contaminated going through, so people would not be breathing it. So they were going through and they were spraying that as they were going through, and they were moving the dirt to make sure that people did not go through and did not were not breathing that in, as well as they had their protective gear on. So like you said, there's a lot of forethought that goes into this, and as far as the communication, it's pretty phenomenal. This here is part of the tunnel operations that we're taking and going on again with the hole that they had. And here is the final ceiling as far as I'm going through and covering that area. Okay, as far as going through and talking about, a lot of people when they go through and they hear about emergency preparedness, a lot of people out there, they usually think, okay, well, you're storing some food and we've got to have enough for 2 or 3 days. And that's good. Not understanding that there is so much more to it than that. You get your classic preppers that go in and they're prepping, going and buying stuff, not really planning, not understanding what it is that they need to go through and to prepare. There are some things, in fact, I myself, I have got 3 family members. I have a son and a daughter and a granddaughter who cannot eat gluten. In fact, my son is so bad that literally he won't eat even at my house because he has had so many problems that he looks like a mess. I mean, his hands literally are just raw, and he's got the little blisters and the whole 9 yards, but he goes through, and we have stored rice for him so that if he, if it comes down to where we need to grind, and I've got a hand grinder, grind that, we've got that. So those are some of the things that you need to look at is, do you have any food allergies? That you need to be prepping a different way than somebody else, rather than just buying stuff and storing it without really having a plan that's going to fit your family's needs. Okay. It says, take the time now to get prepared. It's important to do as much as possible before an emergency happens. And then you go down here and they say, I think we need to update our disaster recovery plan. This one suggests we all run around in circles shouting, what do we do? What do we do? And I don't think that most of us will want to take and want to be in that situation. But there are going to be people who will, which is a little terrifying. And I don't know if that's we had a video. There we go.
So who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries. Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice. And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
We couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
There's a lot of information on some of these sites. I don't know how much you guys have taken and have been into some of these sites, but I mean, you can really get into extensive information when you deal with FEMA and you deal with the ready to go kits and.
What was that website, ready.gov?
It's,
/kids.
yeah, in fact, I've got, on the very back sheet,
Uh-huh.
it has a bunch of sites, I shouldn't say a
Okay.
bunch, but it has some sites that you guys can take and go to.
Thank you.
That will give you information.
So who's gonna do what?
Okay. So as you guys, probably most of you in here have already created a plan for your family. And I don't know how many of you have a business that have gone through and have planned for your business. And it's amazing the number of businesses. I mean, you figure that if we had a big enough earthquake in our area, number one, a lot of people think, okay, we're not over on the West Coast, so we're not gonna have to worry about it. Well, that's probably not gonna be the case. Number one, we don't know what kind of damage it will do to our bridges. You know, if it takes out the bridges, there are people on one side of the river trying to get to the other side of the river. It's going to be an interesting experience. What do you have if any of you work, what do you have at work that, you know, has you prepared where you can go through and you can take care of yourself? Do you wear heels to work every day, or do you keep tennis shoes in your car? Winter, do you have a heavy enough coat? Do you have any blankets? Do you have any extra food in your car and water? Those are all things that you need to think about because we don't know what will happen. Not only that, but you know, with the OSO and that landslide that ended up happening, that was a pretty devastating experience. And what some people do not realize is the area back up off Keene, where they've got all of those houses up on those hills and stuff going across there. Do you know where I'm talking about? Up where, yeah, there's a fault line that runs through there. And a lot of people don't know that. And I know that when I first moved here back in the 70s, I remember because we were looking for land or a house, and I remember the realtor telling us they'll never build on those hills because they're not stable enough. And that's not what's happened. And you have enough money, you can throw money at anything. It's kind of like the OSO landslide. There was some evidence that they should never have built on that hill. And it's going to be interesting to see long term how all of those lawsuits go down the road. But so when you're talking about going through and preparing, you need to make sure that you're preparing because you don't know what's going to end up happening that may affect you and may affect your family. Okay, as far as you do need to plan for situations. If you're at home or you're leaving, you need to prepare a sheltered home. This is another thing too, and I don't know how many of you have got basements or how many of you have got earthquake insurance or have looked into earthquake insurance. I just did that myself because they have that live fault out by, I'm trying to remember if it's Finley or Burbank. They've got the fault line that runs across there. They have the fault line that runs out by Columbia Generating Station. So we are in an earthquake-prone area. So anyway, know where you're going to go. Talk to your kids. Talk to your grandkids. Because you don't know. They could be at school. Mom and dad may be at work, may not be able to be home. You know, it's really a good thing to go through and to have a plan because you don't want them out there wondering where on earth or if mom and dad are coming home or if they're ever coming home. I mean, we need to be looking at that as well. Family contact numbers. I myself, really guilty because I have my cell phone. And the cell phone, I just look up the person and punch the number. I don't even know my kids' cell phone numbers.
Me neither.
You know,
Me neither.
so that's something that, you know, you need to think about. Do you have them written down anywhere where you can at least get to them if something happened and you need that information? One of the things that they tell people is, okay, if something happens and the phone line system goes down, a lot of times texting still works. So keep that in mind. It's not 100% guaranteed, but they have shown where texting a lot of times will work when the phone system goes down. So that's one of the things that you want to go through and that you want to try to remember.
So I've come up with a family emergency plan.
Great. What is it?
It's difficult to talk about, so I'm not telling you.
How will we know what to do?
You won't.
I'm so glad I won't have to remember anything.
Me too. Thanks for this, sweetie.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips.
That part is it's pretty true for some people.
It is, and you know, your plan's only as good as you communicate
So
and prepare
I've
for
come
it.
up.
So, just one of those things that we want to do. Okay, a lot of people have pets. I don't know how many of you have pets, cats, horses, dogs, etc. But anyway, that's one of the things that you want to think about too, is not just your family, but if you've got pets that are really part of the family, you need to make sure that you're taking and preparing for them as well. You want to make sure that you have a battery-powered radio or hand crank radio or something. And you want to make sure that you're checking and changing the batteries in it if you have something with batteries, whether it be flashlights, etc., because you know you've got to use it and they're dead or corroded or whatever. So you do want to make sure that you're taking it, you're looking for that, and make sure that you have extra batteries, because we don't always know how long, if power goes out, it's going to stay out. So you do want to make sure that you're prepared for that. We had talked earlier about the medications and the dosages. How many of you have first aid kits?
How do you prepare for that if they say you can only have this much medication?
Yeah.
So what you can do is get your pharmacy, they usually will let you pick it up 4 days early, and just do that 4 days early for a year, and you've got an extra month. And that's one way to do it. Sometimes you can get an extra, if it's something that's not real expensive, you can actually pay cash for it and get it that way, so that you then get it, so you're not running it through the insurance. With the expensive stuff, I just talk to one of the pharmacists and say, hey, can I pick this up 4 days early? Because the insurance companies tell you to have 30 days on hand, and then they won't let you have 30 days on hand. So yes.
Thank you.
Isn't it nice to have him here?
Yeah. Very nice.
Okay, another thing too, a lot of people do not keep a pair of shoes beside their bed. They put them in the closet. I have to watch it because I tend to want to pick up the shoes and put them in the closet. You need to make sure that you have a pair of shoes underneath your bed, so that if something happens in the middle of the night and you need to get up and you need to run. And in fact, a prime example is our neighbors that we had right across the street. They were sleeping. Everybody at my house was sleeping. My son was upstairs. And all of a sudden, he hears pop, 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 pop. And he looks out the window, and the garage is on fire across the street. And so he threw on his shorts and literally no shoes, runs across the street to the neighbor's house. He and another neighbor got there about the same time and started banging on the door that people were asleep, took and woke them up, and they literally got out with the clothes on their back. They had nothing. And so, you know, when you think about it, shoes are pretty important to go through and to have. I have a cousin had a fire in his house. He grew up in the Arizona desert, and so he had calluses super thick on the bottom of his feet. but he woke up, the place was on fire, the only way he could get out was going through the fire, and he had no shoes. And fortunately, they said that it saved his feet because he had such thick calluses on the bottom of his feet. But he was burned enough that, well, his heart stopped 3 or 4 times, and he had to do the burn stuff, and I mean, the suit, etc. So,
Another thing about shoes is how many times have you broken a glass in your kitchen and you've been in your slippers or bare feet or.
yeah. And you never know with the wind that we have, what'll come through the window. You know, you never know if we have an earthquake.
Yeah.
I mean, there's,
Gotta say, when I was in Chile in that 2010 earthquake, and, you know, your picture frames and stuff drop down the ground and glass just goes everywhere.
yeah.
And so, yeah, you needed shoes.
Yeah, it's, you know, and you think about things like glasses. You know, do you have glasses around where you're going to be able to get a hold of them and have them, because not everybody can see very well without their glasses. So those are things that you need to look at. You know, your financial paperwork, birth certificates, anything like that. You know, your papers for your cars, your home. I mean, all of those things. Do you have them someplace where you can grab them and go?
Yeah, we had I remember one of the previous enrichment nights, this lady brought this thing in, and it was a grab and go binder, and it was like just this binder, and it had all these things that you'd fill out, and it had you know exactly what to have in it, so you could keep them in sleeves in there, and then keep it in your safe, and so that you know if you needed to go, everything you needed was right in that binder.
In fact, I've got a binder, and it's in the safe, and it's got the sleeve inserts, and I've got my marriage certificate in there. I have the birth certificates in there. I have some security cards in there. I have the auto paperwork as far as anything dealing with that, the house, military papers, all of that is in that binder.
But if we're saying we've got to grab and go, who can stop and open up their safe?
Well, and that's where you have to think about, okay,
shouldn't
do
you
you
make
want
a
to take
copy?
the chance of, well, and you could, do you want to take the chance of leaving it out where somebody breaks into your home?
No,
They
I'm
get
not
a hold
saying
of it.
that, but I mean,
And so that's where, you
It's
know,
not-
yeah, you have to figure out,
I think I would make a copy if you needed to take it.
yeah, and some people do take and go through and have a copy, or they'll put it on they'll copy it, scan it, destroy the copies, and then they'll go through and they'll have a pen drive or whatever with them so that.
But then if there's an
That's true.
EMP, they can't use their pen drive.
Yeah, and so, you know, these are all things that you have to pay, or you're gonna prepare more than one way. So this is something that you have to be comfortable with what it is that you're taking, that you're doing to prepare, because nobody else can do that for you and give you that peace of mind.
That was some storm.
Yeah. Hey, good thing I packed an emergency kit. Let's see, we got some chocolate frosting, soy sauce, pancake mix, shoehorn, bag of glass. There's Nancy. Can you
Oh.
you have a first aid kit here?
Gummy worms?
Yep, that's for carbs. Oh! Careful with those are level 4. This dream is still alive, baby.
Oh, some nuts. Protein, that's smart. This is the stupidest disaster kit I've ever seen.
What are you talking about? Did you bring a kit? Did you make one? I did my best.
No, but I did download some apps from the American Red Cross. Okay, it says here we should have important phone numbers memorized, that we should pick a place to meet in case we get separated, and that we should really keep supplies in the trunk of our car.
Hey, I got stuff in my trunk. Meat moss?
Okay.
Okay?
That's Grandma.
Your husband has everything under control.
Try having a better plan. Putting together an emergency kit with immediate supplies is easy. It doesn't take much time at all. For a full list of what to include in your kit, tips on how to put together a plan, and links to download our preparedness apps, visit redcross.org/prepare.
Okay, earlier about as far as going through and having a kit for your car, and that varies depending on what time of the year that you're at. So you may want more than one, which I have 2 containers, one for the winter and one for the summer. And also wherever you're going, because it may be nice here, but wherever you're going may not be so nice. So you want to think about things like that. And as far as your kids, if you have kids, you want to have things that will comfort your kids if they need to be comforted, whether it be food, whether it be a color book, whatever. You want something in that car that's going to go through and that's going to help your kids, to help them feel safe, not only because you're there, but because they have something that they're familiar with or that they like. You want to make sure that you get as much information as possible whenever you're going through. As far as communication, you want to make sure that you're staying tuned to your radios, and hopefully you can get information that way, to your TV stations. Talk to your neighbors. Every Twitter and Facebook moves faster than anything I have seen in my life. It's like, one of the big things I know in the PIO world is get your information out now, because I guarantee if you don't get it out, somebody else is going to get it out there, and it may not be accurate. So, you do want to go through and you want to watch, because your neighbors going through and texting, like we had talked about earlier, sometimes you can find out more information that way than you can even if you watch the TV and radio. So you want to look at multiple avenues with your communication as far as going through and getting that information. There is, with people who live, I was talking about the emergency preparedness on that 10-mile EPZ, there are calendars sent out to everyone who lives in that emergency planning zone in Benton and Franklin counties. And in that emergency planning zone, it gives the streets, like if something were to happen, what streets they need to take to go through and to evacuate. So if anybody lives in those areas, make sure that you go through those calendars, because they are invaluable as far as the information that they have.
But I don't understand, I'm sorry. They send calendars out? What are you saying?
Well,
Yes.
in that area, in that 10-mile radius from the generating plant.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we're outside of that,
Yeah.
so we won't get that.
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't understand.
Yeah, some people aren't, and so that's why, we tell people, if you live in that area, make sure that you go through and that you are paying attention and don't throw the garbage.
So outside of 10 miles, we're perfectly safe, right?
For the most part, you're a lot.
Yeah, do you have your potassium iodide?
Yeah. I know, even with the KI, you have to be really careful too. Because,
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, some people are allergic. They have a reaction to that. So, it's great if you have to take it, but don't take it just to take it. It's, you want to listen and pay attention to what you're being told, because it could possibly create harm as well. Like I said, you saw the sirens earlier as far as in Benton, Franklin County. Code Red, I explained that as far as, and you guys have those, I believe everybody has their flyers. And this here are some of the places that you can take and that you can go to take and get that information. I also have, pardon?
Oh, the fourth one.
Franklin Ian.
Right here.
Yeah.
Have it in the very
Oh,
back.
they spelled it wrong.
Should have an N in it.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, yes, this should be Franklin